Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you are preparing for a cloud interview or just trying to wrap your head around Azure Virtual Machines, you know the text definition don't always help when an interviewer asks. Today we are breaking down the top 10 scenario-based Azure Virtual Machine interview questions. Let's get started. Scenario 1. The Black Friday Rush. Your company e-commerce website run on the Azure Virtual Machine. Black Friday is coming up and traffic is going to skyrocket for just 24 hours. How do you handle this without overpaying for the rest of the month? You should use a feature called Azure Virtual Machine Scale Sets with the auto scaling enabled. Instead of buying a massive expensive virtual machine that sits idle most of the year. Scale sets allow your system to copy and create new virtual machines automatically when traffic gets heavy. When the rush ends and people stop visiting the site, the extra virtual machines delete themselves, so you stop paying for them. To set this up, you define rule based on metrics like CPU uses. For example, you can tell Azure if the CPU usage goes above 75%, add 2 more virtual machines. When the rush is over and CPU drops below 40%, Azure automatically removes those extra machines, keeping your cloud bill small. Scenario 2. The accidental deletion. A new beginner accidentally deleted a critical production VM. How do you ensure that underlying data is not lost forever? And how do you prevent this from happening again? First, you should always have Azure Backup configuration for your critical virtual machines, which allow you to restore the entire machine or just its disk to a previous point in time. Second, to stop anyone from accidentally deleting it in the future, you must apply a management lock called a delete lock directly to the virtual machine or its resource group. Azure Backup takes regular snapshots of your data and stores them safely in a recovery service vault. Even if the virtual machine vanishes, the data remains intact in a vault. Meanwhile, the delete lock acts like a safety guard. If someone clicks delete, Azure blocks the action until an authorized administrator manually removes the lock first. Scenario 3. Saving money on constant workload. Your company runs a database virtual machine that must stay online 24/7, 365 days a year. The finance team complains that it costs too much. What is your pricing strategy? Solve this. For a virtual machine that never turns off, you should buy Azure Reserve Virtual Machine instances. By committing to keep the virtual machine running for 1 year or 3-year terms, Azure gives you a massive discount up to 72% compared to the standard pay-as-you-go pricing. Think of it like renting an apartment. Paying night by night at a hotel is incredibly expensive, but signing a 1-year lease makes the daily cost much cheaper. Question number 4. You just created a Windows virtual machine, but when you try to connect to it from your home computer using remote desktop, the connection times out. What is the first thing you check? The very first place to look is the Network Security Group or NSG, which acts as the virtual machine personal firewall. You need to check if there is an inbound security rule that explicitly allows RDP traffic which uses port 3389 from your home IP address. If this rule is missing or blocked, Azure will stop your connection before it even reaches the virtual machine. To fix this, you open the Azure portal, go to the virtual machine network settings and add an inbound port rules. You set the destination port to 3389 and the protocol to TCP. For safety, you should restrict the sources to your specific public IP address rather than letting the whole internet try to log in. Scenario 5. Data center disaster. Your application needs to stay online even if an entire Azure data center building catches fire or loses power completely. What do you do? How do you design your virtual machine setup for this? You need to deploy your virtual machine across different Azure availability zones within the same region. Availability zones are physically separate data centers inside the same geographical area, each equipped with its own independent power, cooling, and networking infrastructure. By placing one virtual machine in Zone 1 and a clone of it in Zone 2, you ensure high availability. If the physical building hosting Zone 1 suffers a total power outage, your traffic is automatically routed to the virtual machine running safely in Zone 2, meaning your customers never experience an outage. Scenario 6. Changing virtual machine size safely. Your virtual machine running out of memory. You need to upgrade it to the larger size. Can you do this while users are actively working on it? No, you cannot change the size of a virtual machine without causing a brief period of downtime. When you change the virtual machine size, Azure need to shut down the operating system, move the virtual machine to a different physical server in the data center that has the larger hardware capacity, and then start it back up. Because the virtual machine must reboot, you should always schedule this change during a planned maintenance window. Like late at night when user activity is lowest, it usually only takes a few minutes. Question number 7. You need to run a massive batch processing job that takes 5 hours to finish. It is not urgent and it does not matter if it gets interrupted and restarted later. How do you do this as cheaply as possible? You should use Azure Spot VM for this task. Spot VMs allow you to buy unused Azure compute capacity at an extremely deep discount, often up to 90% of the standard price. The catch is that Azure can take the hardware back at any moment if a regular, full-paying customer needs it. Because your batch processing job can handle interruptions, this is the perfect compromise. If Azure needs the capacity back, your virtual machine pauses, and when capacity opens up again, the job resumes. You save a massive amount of money just by being flexible with the time. Scenario 8. Protecting secrets and keys. Your application code running inside a virtual machine needs to access a secure database. How do you let the VM log into the database without hard coding the password inside the application text file? You should use an Azure feature called Managed Identity. Managed Identity gives your specific virtual machine its own identity registered in the Microsoft Entra ID, formerly Azure Active Directory. This allows the virtual machine to secretly talk to other Azure services without requiring you to type or store any password in your code. Instead of writing database password directly in your script where an attacker could easily read it, the database checks with Azure, confirms the identity, and grants access securely. Scenario 9. You need to deploy 20 identical web servers virtual machines, and each one needs IIS software installed the moment it turned on. You don't want to log into 20 machines manually. How do you automate this? You can use the Azure custom script extensions. These tools allow you to upload a setup script like a PowerShell script for the Windows or a Bash script for the Linux, and instruct Azure to automatically run that scripts inside the virtual machine the very second the operating system finishes provisioning. Instead of spending hours clicking through the installation menus on 20 different desktops, you write the install command once when you launch the virtual machine via the Azure portal or command line. You attach the script and Azure handles that heavy lifting in the background, delivering 20 ready-to-use web servers. Scenario 10. Keeping operating systems up to date. You manage 50 Azure virtual machines and need to make sure that they all get critical security patches every month, but doing it manually takes too long. What built-in Azure tool helps you? You should use Azure Update Manager. This is built-in management service that lets you oversee, schedule and automate update compliances for all your virtual machines across your entire cloud environment for one central dashboard. With Azure Update Manager, you can create a policy that says, every Tuesday at 2 a.m., check for critical security updates and install them automatically. It will scan the virtual machines, apply the patches, reboot them if necessary, and send you a report showing exactly which machines are safe and up to date. And there you have it, the top 10 Azure Virtual Machine scenarios explained simply without the confusing jargon. Don't forget to like, subscribe and drop a comment below. We'll see you in the next video.